What is up, guys? I am Driessenable, and welcome to a different kind of video than what I normally do. Typically, I do videos oriented around games, but there's a specific game that I recently played called Among the Sleep that has led to me making this video. So, in Among the Sleep, spoilers if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't, go back and watch it because it was a great series. But in Among the Sleep, at the very end of the game, there is a scene where you find out that throughout the game, and all these things with the shadow monsters and things along those lines are actually the mother, because the mother is an alcoholic. And the reason why I'm making this video is because this moment of the game, or this particular game scene, spoke to me in such a way, it hit home to me in such a way because I myself am a recovering alcoholic. And that's not something that's easy to necessarily talk about for me, but it's something I believe is important to talk about because of the fact that this being April 1st, and happy April Fool's Day to everyone. Just so you know, this is not an April Fool's video. This has nothing to do with April Fool's. It just happens to be April 1st, which is the first day of Alcohol Awareness Month. And so I'm making this video to hopefully bring some awareness to alcoholism and potentially other mental health illnesses that are out there. So with the game Among the Sleep, the reason why that ending, as I mentioned, hit so hard is because I'm a recovering alcoholic. And when I was looking back on the game, and I was editing that last video and seeing all the little hints at it with the shadow monster, it essentially reminded me of myself in such a way that when I was leading up to that scene, when I was realizing what was happening with the mother, I felt very emotional inside. And it took quite a bit for me to keep it together while actually recording that video because of how hard it hit me, because that was the depiction of how I was when I was not a recovering alcoholic, when I was a practicing alcoholic, and when I was stuck inside of this disease, this affliction of my mind, and had not reached out, had not gotten any form of help. And so that shadow monster reminded me so much of myself that it just flooded me with emotions. And even looking back when I was actually editing the video, there was times where I was thinking about what was happening, and I was just tearing up, just watching these events unfold in the game to this 2-year-old child. Because there's this inaccurate depiction or inaccurate information that people who are not recovering seem to think that it does not affect anyone around them. And that could not be more wrong, because it definitely affects anyone who cares about you in any way, shape, or form. Because no one wants to see you go through that type of lifestyle. No one wants to see you physically hurt yourself through the use of alcohol, or through the use of drug use, or anything along those lines. And so it does affect everyone around you. And in the sense of this game, it was affecting the child. It affected how the child even perceived the mother. The child would see the mother as a shadow figure, as a shadow creature, anytime that the mother had anything to do with alcohol. And that's the type of thing that this disease can do to the people around the one that is afflicted with the alcoholism. So I'm briefly going to touch about what my life was like prior to recovery. And so I was a full-blown alcoholic, but I was very much in denial about it for years. It wasn't until July 1st of 2017 that I actually decided to start getting help for my alcoholism. And I know for a fact, and this is why, again, this game hit so hard for me, is I know for a fact that I affected my family in such a way, and it wasn't even the fact that, like, I was known to my friends as, I'm sure, someone that was fun to be around, but for my family, I was the worst to the people that actually mattered the most. And that realization of when I hit recovery was such a hard thing to deal with the fact that I had put my family through so much trauma and so much sadness and so much potentially anger, for all I know, because of my alcoholism. And not anger in the sense of they were angry at the fact that I was an alcoholic, but angry at the sense that they could see that my life was not going the way that it should have been. And that was because of alcoholism. Flash forward to, say, today, when it's now April 1st, 2020, as I mentioned, I had quit drinking on July 1st of 2017, which was an interesting day to actually quit drinking. It was Canada Day, and I don't know why that just happened to be the day that came up, but it was Canada Day that I actually quit drinking. And it's because of an event, and I'll talk about this because I feel like it's important to know what happened to me and what kind of changed for me that led me down this road of recovery. The night prior to Canada Day, so it would have been June 30th, that morning, I should say, I was found in my parents' driveway, passed out on the ground at about, I think it was about 11 a.m. or noon, somewhere around then, in between 10 and noon, foaming at the mouth, unconscious, completely unconscious. Could have died. That didn't even spark a change in me, though. Even that night, so that was the morning of June 30th. That night, I actually went out. I went out to the bar, thinking that everything was normal. I woke up on the couch. I thought I got there normally. I had just walked into the house and I passed out. But that's not at all what happened. And I could have died because of this. Because anyone who's afflicted with alcoholism can die from this. It is a fatal disease. And so I went out normally, just like I would on a normal night, because I often would go out and party and things along those lines. And I had this weird thought that popped into my head, and it used to be a thing of, I would always ask myself what I'm going to do with my life, and the thought that popped into my head was, what am I doing with my life? And that led me on a completely different path that I've been on ever since of recovery of alcoholism. And it's a lifetime process. You don't recover from alcoholism. At least that's my thought, is you don't recover from alcoholism, because if I were to ever pick up a drink again, all bets are off. I would not be able to tell you what would happen, but I can almost guarantee you that it would kill me. So it's a lifetime recovery process. And that may seem daunting, and it can seem daunting, but you don't necessarily look at it as it's a lifetime thing. You look at it as it's a day-by-day thing. You just take things one day at a time, and that helps really get you through each day. It changes your outlook completely on time itself, and you just have to focus on those 24 hours or even the next hour. It's all based on the perception of how you look at it, but it definitely for me helped. Did not think about, I have to do this for the rest of my life. I thought about, I just have to do this for the next 24 hours. And a 24 hour leads to another 24 hour, to another 24 hour. And eventually you start putting together weeks, months, and years. And that gets you to where I am now. And again, it's been 2 years and 9 months for me. And that's because of a string of 24 hours. And that's the easiest way that I can think of doing things. Now, there are a lot of difficulties with being a recovering alcoholic, because alcoholism is a disease of the mind. It's an affliction of the mind. It is recognized as a disease. And that's because it actually changes the neurochemistry in your brain. And people who have alcoholism, people who drink, they cannot predict what their actions are going to be. That's a real thing. And I can tell you 100% that's a real thing, because I could never guarantee what my actions were when I wasn't a recovering alcoholic. When I was a practicing alcoholic, I could never, ever tell you what the hell I was going to do in a night or what I was going to do in a day. I was unpredictable. As soon as I started drinking, all bets were off. It was like a Jekyll and Hyde situation, and that's the best way that I can explain it. But there are difficulties with alcoholism, because for an alcoholic, that's kind of the natural thing to do, is to drink. But So when you take out alcohol from the equation, what are you left with? You're left with an alcoholic that's not drinking. For an alcoholic, that is such a strange change to your body to not drink anymore. And so there are difficulties with that. I mentioned that April 1st is the start of Alcohol Awareness Month, and that's why I'm making this video, is to try to bring awareness to alcoholism, but not necessarily just alcoholism. I understand that it is Alcohol Awareness Month, but hopefully this can shed some light on other mental health issues as well, such as drug addiction, such as things like depression or suicide, because all of those things are an affliction of the mind. They all affect people mentally, And there's help for all of those things as well. So I'm hoping that this will bring light to those as well. I'll be touching more so on alcoholism because that's my background, and also that's the month that we're in. But I hope that this can be also spread across to other types of mental illnesses, because the facts, while they're different illnesses, there is help for all of them. And all of the people who don't necessarily reach out for help are all generally because of the same reason. And we're going to touch on that shortly. So the problem that generally stems from most people that will not seek help, there's a few different cases, obviously, is probably the main one is that they don't see the issue and therefore don't think that they need help. But for some that do see an issue, there is this unfortunate stigma that's about having a mental health illness. And the stigma is that outside people, or even the person themselves, views having this mental illness as a weakness. Often people may think that the person who has the mental illness is unstable or can be violent or things of that nature. Often people themselves will judge themselves because of this mental illness that they have. And these types of things can lead people to not want to reach out for help. Often this is because they feel that people don't necessarily understand them. And that couldn't be the most far from the truth. And I'll tell you why. Because if someone were to say to me that they're afraid to go seek help for alcoholism because no one understands what they're like, I understand what they're like, because I had the exact same thought. There's this thing with alcoholism. It's a term that's known as terminal uniqueness, meaning that the person, the alcoholic, or myself, seems to think that they are unique beyond any capacity, that there is no one like them, and that there's no one that could ever possibly understand them. Because that's the thoughts that go through people who have mental health issues, such as alcoholism, is that there's no one like me, there's no one that will understand what I'm going through. And that couldn't be more far from the truth. Because there's tons of people that I've met that think exactly like I do. They've been through similar things, and they're not going to be the exact same things that people have gone through, but they've been through similar things, and they've been through relatable things. And that's what is important, is being able to relate to someone about something that you're going through. So if you're an alcoholic and you hear someone talking about things that you thought about when you were drinking, there's a relatable situation right there. And that's one thing that helped me get through alcoholism, was knowing that there are people around me who have been through what I've been through, in different fashions, mind you, but they've been through similar events. And that was the most empowering thing that I ever came across when I was recovering from alcoholism, is to know that I am not alone. And if you're suffering from a mental health issue or a mental health illness such as alcoholism, you need to know that you're not alone as well. There are people like myself who know what you're going through. And there are people like myself that can understand what you're going through and that can understand how to help you. There's people all over the world that do this. There's people all over the world that are affected by this. And there's people all over the world that are there to be able to help you. So reach out for help. End the stigma. You're not alone. Now, if you're watching this video and you know someone who's affected by alcoholism or another mental health illness, and they are reluctant to seek help, you cannot force them to do so. That is the last thing that you want to do, because no one is going to seek help until they're truly ready. I can speak from experience. I had someone who was very close to me that would often ask me if I thought I needed help. And for years, my answer was no. My answer was no, I didn't need help, because I didn't see a problem with what was happening in my life. I didn't see a problem with my drinking. And there was a problem with my drinking, but I didn't see it. I didn't think I was an alcoholic for the longest time. I didn't think I was an alcoholic until I was 25 years old. I didn't think I was an alcoholic until July 1st. So no one can get the proper help that they need until they're willing to do so, until they're ready to do so. And the best thing that you can do for that person is to support them, and not support them in the sense that you're going to support their habits, because that's not something that you want to do, but support them in the sense that they know that if they need to talk about something, that you're there to be able to talk to them. So there are a number of places that can be reached out to for help. Now, I was going to provide phone numbers for those places, but when I started searching around for them, I found that a lot of them were locally for me in Canada, to provinces, and I believe in the United States it'd be local to states. Now, I could be wrong on that, but that's what I was finding, is that the first number that came up for me was a helpline for Ontario. So there are helplines out there. If you feel that you might need help, do a quick Google search, and you should be able to find a line that you can call to be able to get the help that you need. So as part of Alcohol Awareness Month, what I want to do is I want to try and receive some questions that you might have for me. And so if you have any questions for me, or you want to share anything in regards to alcoholism with me, please feel free to reach me at driessenable@gmail.com. I will list that email address in text in the video right about now. Dramatic pause. And if you have any types of questions that you want to ask me, please do reach out to me via that email. At the end of the month, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take questions that I've received and make a video to answer those questions. And it will all be anonymous. I'm not going to say at all who sent me these questions. It will just be questions. Everything will be anonymous about it. And if I get a good amount of questions, maybe I'll do a video halfway through April and another one at the end. If I get no questions, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do for a video. Maybe I'll talk more about alcoholism, which is a good thing to talk about because it is Alcohol Awareness Month. But if you have any questions at all, please feel free to send me an email. I'm not sure if I can respond to all of them, but I will make sure that I at least get to as many as I can in the videos that I make. So in regards to the stigma surrounding any type of mental health illness, over the years it actually has decreased quite a bit to what it used to be, but it does still exist. And the sad thing about the fact that this stigma exists is it causes, as I mentioned, the person or people around them to have a negative view on the person afflicted by the disease. And this leads to doubt in people's minds. This led to doubt in my mind. I can tell you by experience that there was somewhat of stigma in my mind among being an alcoholic, and maybe that was one of the reasons that I never actually admitted that I was until July 1st of 2017, is that there was that stigma around, well, this could make me feel like I'm weaker of a person, or this is admitting defeat, or things along those lines. And that is 100% the opposite of what it actually means. If you can admit that you have a problem and that you feel that you need to go get help for it, that is the strongest move that you could possibly make. The strongest move that you could possibly make, because you're admitting that you need help. You're admitting that there are some things that you cannot do on your own, but at the same time, you're taking the steps towards actually fixing or getting help for those problems. And that is the strongest thing that you could possibly do. So if you do feel that you have a problem like this, make that step. Take that step to try and get the help that you deserve, the help that you need, so that you can in turn start looking towards a better life. And don't let this stigma create any form of self-doubt or any type of shame in your mind, because it's not something to be shameful of. It's not something to be shameful of or to feel weak about admitting that you have a problem. That shouldn't be something that holds you back from making a decision that can better your life. So I beg of you not to let that hold you back. Don't let the stigma win. Don't let the stigma control you. And let's end the stigma. As I mentioned before, let's work together to end the stigma of mental health illnesses. So one last thing that I ask of you guys is, please, if you know of anyone who is afflicted by alcoholism or any type of mental health illness, or you yourself are, or if you simply want to support this message, please share this video around. I ask this because I want people to be able to get the help that they deserve and the help that they need, and I want people to know that they're not alone in the world and that there is a better way about life. The reason why I'm making this video is to spread that message. Because it's Alcohol Awareness Month and because it is something that is so dear to me because of myself being an alcoholic, this video and the fact that Among the Sleep actually had to do with that and happened to line up with the end of March, the beginning of April, when Alcohol Awareness Month is the reason why I'm making this video. It is all because of that. I just want people to know that there is help out there, and I just want people to know that they don't have to live the life that they're living, especially if it's harming them and especially if it's harming those around them. So please, share this video around to as many people as you can. As I mentioned, if you know someone who is suffering from an affliction of the mind, such as alcoholism, if you yourself are suffering from it and you feel that you want to take those next steps to get help, or if you simply think that this is a good message for other people to see. Because I believe that all of those three things are factors. I believe that all of those three things are true, even if you're not an alcoholic, and even if you don't know someone who is an alcoholic. There are so many people who are affected by alcoholism, whether it's themselves or their family. And it's very important that people know that there is help out there. And it's very important that people know the reason behind the alcoholism itself, that it is in fact a disease of the mind, that it does affect the neurochemistry of someone's mind, and to try and end the stigma of the negative outlook on alcoholism or of mental health illnesses in general. So please, share this around if you can. Share it with anyone that you can think of. Share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it on Instagram. If you have websites, I don't know, you can share it there too. The link will be able to be embedded into essentially anything. So please, share it around with as many people as you can to try and spread the word, and let's end the stigma together. So thank you so much, you guys, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give the video a like. If you don't want to comment, I understand, because this is such a touchy subject. And that's why, in regards to questions, I provided my email address and not stated to leave a comment in the comment section below, because of the fact that I want people to be able to maintain their anonymity. For me, making this video is a choice. It's a choice to let people know that I'm an alcoholic, but that doesn't mean that everyone else has to do that. I'm making this video to try and bring awareness about that, and I myself am choosing to share that I'm an alcoholic with you, but that doesn't mean that you have to choose to share that you're an alcoholic with me, especially in the comments section. But if you do want to send me an email with any questions that you have, absolutely feel free to. Again, that email is driessenable@gmail.com. That is DRIESSENABLE@gmail.com. So as always, thank you so much, you guys, for watching. And until next time, remember, stay reasonable. And let's end the stigma.